Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, April 29th, 2021, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Cook Partisan Voting Index. It's released every 4 years that pretty much compares the previous two presidential elections and looks at each statewide result and gives you a number based off how much that statewide vote was relative to the rest of the nation, whether it was more Democratic or more Republican, and it gives us a general idea of which states are actually Republican versus Democratic leaning. Even though Biden may have won Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, the margins there were much narrower than they were on the national popular vote, and Biden might not necessarily have actually done better in some of those areas than he did on the national average, which means those states actually lean to the right, because if all else was equal and the popular vote was 50-50, the Republicans would have won those states under that circumstance. So what we're going to be looking at here is the 2024 electoral map, the brand new one. Actually, not the brand new one. This one doesn't seem to be updated. So let's go ahead and just edit some of these numbers that I know are incorrect. So Texas should be down to 40. Alabama did not lose one. Arizona did not gain one. I could be off by a couple of these, and I do apologize in advance if that is the case. That is not my intention whatsoever. I'm just trying to make sure that everything is accurate, and if I do make a mistake, please let me know down below. That is not my intention at all, but we should be at 538 at this point. I think everything else is the same. So we're at a correct amount in terms of electoral votes. Hopefully, I'm not off on any of them, but that's where we're going to be working with. This is our new map. So, also, one thing I do want to point out, if you hear any humming or buzzing, I apologize for that. I'm currently at my school. I am in person now, so I'm actually in my car recording this. So that's why you might sound a little bit different than it does normally, because I normally record in my room. So sorry about that if you hear anything different. I meant to record a video last night, but I ended up not, and I just went to sleep. So here I am, recording it right in the school parking lot. So let's get started. Let's take a look at the Cook PVI and pretty much just discuss what is the Partisan Voting Index. Now, this is something that is typically updated, and you can actually see the shading regions, but they do use different margins than what I do. So this is a general idea of what you can expect. It probably will be a little bit more lighter colors, just because I do have much wider ranges in terms of my lean, likely, and safe margins, but that's what you generally should be looking at. But what does this actually mean? Why is Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia red when the states clearly voted blue in the 2020 election? Well, essentially, this Partisan Voting Index takes the election results, and in this case is taking the results from 2020 and 2016, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm looking at the Cook PVI. And essentially, what it does is looks at the national numbers, so the national margin of victory for Joe Biden, 51.3% to 46.8%, a margin of 4.5%, but the margin doesn't really matter. It's more about the vote share here. So with Biden receiving 51.3% of the vote, and also they're going to be combining Hillary Clinton's vote share in the previous election. You're looking at 2016, she received 48% of the vote. They stick those two together, and they say, how much did this state vote relative to the Democratic Party's vote share, depending on the winner. And in, for example, California, which I just showed you, that would be a perfect example. Biden received, what did we see? 51% of the vote nationwide. Hillary Clinton received 48%, but she received 62% of the vote in California, and Biden received 64% of the vote in California. So the state is 14 points more to the Democratic Party relative to the national vote. So that's why you're not seeing Alabama R plus 30, even though the margin of victory there might be 30 points for Trump. It's not necessarily R plus 30. It's all relative to the popular vote and to the overall national election results. So we're going to be going state by state and characterizing all of them based off their PVI. One thing that I am going to work with here is I'm going to try to make sure that we have more safe states than we do likely states. A lot of them are actually within this area. So lean is going to remain 1 to 5, likely is going to be 5 to 10, and then safe is going to be 11 plus. And I will actually put that in the comment section down below so you understand that the ratings aren't as the same as I normally have them, just so we can actually have some more solid states, because some of these states truly do need to be characterized as solid, and you can sort of see a very direct correlation to the 2020 election results, but there are a few exceptions, like I had showed you in the beginning of the video. So we start off with Alabama, which is R plus 15, and it goes down to R plus 9 for the state of Alaska. I'm actually going to go ahead and just see if we can pull it up here. I'm going to go ahead and do something really quickly, which is called taking a picture of it with my phone and then pulling it up so we don't have to move back and forth each time. And let's go state by state and then discuss the overall results. We are going in alphabetical order. I'm not going to save the swing states for last. So you're going to see Arizona characterized right now. That's actually R plus 3. Arkansas is Republican plus 16. California is Democrat plus 14. Colorado is Democrat plus 3. That's mildly surprising, but I guess that sort of makes sense. Connecticut is Democrat plus 7. Delaware is Democrat plus 6. The District of Columbia is, get this, Democrat plus 43. Florida is Republican plus 3. That's actually the margin Trump won by. Georgia is Republican plus 3 as well. Hawaii is Democrat plus 15, so that should be considered safe. Idaho is Republican plus 19. Illinois is Democrat plus 7, which I honestly find to be a little surprising, but then again, there are some shocking results in the Cook PVI because it is different than the election results. Never expect a one-to-one exact replication. Iowa is R plus 6. Kansas is Republican plus 11. And then Kentucky is Republican plus 16. So Kansas I meant to characterize as a safe state. So we're starting out with the traditional states. The only ones that really should be surprising are the ones in the Northeast, maybe Illinois, maybe Georgia, Florida just a little bit, but other than that, sort of standard based off the election result. Let's go ahead and scroll down. I'm going to take another picture, and then we're going to go ahead right back into it, and let's take a look. So Louisiana, Republican plus 12, that should be considered safe. Maine, barely in favor of the Democrats. We're talking about Democrat plus 1 in the state of Maine. I honestly think that's very surprising. And anything, we're not going to be working with tilt margins. I'm just not going to characterize the ones that are even. Maybe I will and, characterize them tilt for whichever party won them, but I will be making sure that I point out that they are even. But Maine at large, only Democrat plus 1. And then the 1st district, I'm trying to think, probably would be likely. And then same thing in the 2nd district. So that's just based off of my head calculations. That's not distributed by the Cook PVI, but I'm assuming that's true. Maryland is plus 14, Massachusetts as well. Let's go ahead and see. Michigan is Republican plus 1, so that's actually going to be a flip, our first flip. Actually, not our first. I forgot about Arizona and Georgia. I did not mean to erase them. Sorry about that. Minnesota is barely Democrat, even though Biden won it by 7 points, only plus 1 more than it was on the national numbers. Keep that in mind. Mississippi is Republican plus 10, so that remains in the likely column. Missouri, Republican plus 11. Montana, Republican plus 11. Nebraska, Republican plus 13. Going to assume that the 2nd district is just going to be narrowly for the Democrats, just based off the election results. Biden won there by 7. He won the national popular vote by 4.5. So if anything, it would be lean. The state of Nevada is even. The state of New Hampshire, also even. So these two, while tilt Democratic ratings, only are in that characterization simply because Biden won the states, not because they favor the Democrats more than the national number. New Jersey, Democrats plus 6. New Mexico, Democrats plus 3. Very similar to the state of Colorado. New York, Democrats plus 10. And I know this map is just going to look a little bit weird just based off the characterizations, and I apologize for that. North Carolina, Republican plus 3. North Dakota, Republican plus 10. Ohio, Republican plus 6. Oklahoma, Republican plus 10. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and scroll down here and see if we can get the remaining number of states. So we'll start off with Oregon and go all the way down to Wyoming. Let's go ahead and get started again. Oregon is Democrat plus 6. So actually, this is sort of reminding me of what the map looked like for the Wikipedia website, even though I don't think Mississippi was, Mississippi was not likely on that map. We have Pennsylvania, Republican plus 2. Again, another flip in favor of Donald Trump, in favor of the Republican Party, actually. Rhode Island, Democrat plus 8. South Carolina, Republicans plus 8. So opposite amount here. South Dakota, Republicans plus 16. Tennessee is safe. Texas is Republicans plus 5. So that actually should be lean. Utah, Republicans plus 13. That is considered safe. Vermont, Democrats plus 13 or 15, and then Virginia actually is kind of surprising because Virginia went to Biden by the largest margin for any Democrat since 1944, and yet it's only plus 2. Really, I think goes to show that the national numbers were actually better for Biden than you actually might think. In addition, that maybe it wasn't as much of a Democratic state, but I think the first is actually a better characterization just because Biden won Virginia by double digits. Washington, Democrats plus 8, and then we have West Virginia, Republicans plus 23. Wisconsin is lean, and then Wyoming is safe. Wisconsin was Republican plus 2. So that's it. I mean, this map actually reverts us back to the 2016 presidential electoral map. Now, Nevada and New Hampshire technically shouldn't be in the Democratic column, but it's only there simply because the Democratic Party won it in the 2020 election. But beyond that, there is no real reason as to why it should be leaning in favor of the Democrats. But isn't this interesting? I mean, we're looking back right onto the 2016 presidential election results almost to a T. I mean, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island being likely. I mean, that's pretty pretty much in tune with what the 2016 election results were. Virginia, Colorado, New Mexico being lean, that sort of makes sense. Minnesota as well. New Hampshire being decided by less than 1 point in 2016 correlates with the tilt Democratic characterization it has currently. However, there are a few anomalies, and some things might not be too expected. You might not necessarily see Iowa and Ohio, along with Alaska, Mississippi, and South Carolina, all on the same levels, but weird things do happen. And just looking at this map, I think this truly highlights that the Democratic Party needs to do better than just win the popular vote. They need to consistently win it, and win it by large margins. You know, what we've seen in the entire, past 21st century is that the Democratic Party, if they are to win, must always do very well in the popular vote. When Al Gore won the popular vote in 2000 and lost the election, that was the first of many victories for the GOP that will be won without winning the popular vote. Because it happened for Trump, and it will happen possibly in the immediate future. The Democratic Party wins the popular vote because of population centers, because California and New York are maxed out in terms of the electoral votes that they can have, and there's millions of votes pouring out of Republican states as well, all culminating in the Democratic Party winning the majority of votes nationwide, but they aren't distributed enough to make major plays within some of these swing states. If all the Democrats are in California, there isn't going to be enough, especially when California is underrepresented in terms of the overall electoral college. So the Republicans do have this advantage with the popular vote, and that's exactly what the PVI, I think, is also exposing. That despite the Democratic Party winning the 2020 election with the exact opposite numbers of what I'm showing you now, the 2016 election results are actually the ones that would have occurred had we been in a 50-50 scenario in which the popular vote was even. Because the Republicans outperformed the popular vote in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, despite losing all 5 of those states. In addition, in those swing states, they outperform in North Carolina, Florida, Texas, Ohio, and Iowa, states that are competitive, that are now better for the GOP because of this, because they do better than the national popular vote. Again, highlighting that the Democratic Party needs to do much more in order to win. The GOP just needs to win in the states that matter. The Democratic Party not only needs to win in the states that matter, but it comes without saying that they need to win the popular vote. Because the Democratic Party will not have an election where they win the election without winning in the popular vote. That is not going to happen in the 21st century, at least for the foreseeable future. That'll be very difficult to imagine because the large population centers are pro-Democratic areas because they're urban. And you all know exactly how it works. You learn this in your average civics class. And just looking at our Cook PVI map, I think it's honestly interesting, but not a coincidence that it matches up with the 2016 presidential election results. I mean, this makes sense. If Biden had won the swing states by the popular vote margin, then, we wouldn't have seen Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania drawn out for as long as they did. And this also might point out that while the victories for Biden on the regular map might look large in Colorado or New Mexico, and, seriously speaking, they look very large. Colorado was a 13.5% margin. New Mexico was a 10-point margin. Minnesota and New Hampshire were 7-point margins. But relative to Biden's performance, it actually wasn't that good. Now, of course, it's phenomenal to win by 13.5, but it's not as impressive when you're comparing it to where he should have been. And just looking at the election results in the 2020 election, I can't really make the argument that Biden, number one, exceeded expectations because he clearly did not. In addition, that based off of his results that we're seeing because of this Cook PVI, he didn't exactly have a resounding victory in some of these states. It's large based off the service level, and it will be deemed as large by pundits and by me and by the media. And yes, that makes sense. It was large because we don't always compare it to the national popular vote margin, but this sort of puts things into a better perspective about how we can actually determine whether or not states were truly landslides or whether or not they were just slightly above the average amount, slightly above the margin of victory for the winning candidate on the national popular vote. And sometimes you don't even win the popular vote. In 2016, we were looking at Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote by 2 points, so the PVI seemed very much, in a sense, skewed. And in addition, there was a large third-party presence, so that didn't help it either. But looking at the 2020 election results, I think this offers more insight and just a little bit more of a leveled playing field and a better idea of what to expect within the future elections and what 2020 truly gave us beyond the service level results, beyond the New York Times or CNN or Politico website that shows you the election results. So Do a little bit more of your own research on the PVI yourself. If you want to look at previous ones, the Cook Political Report has them all over their website. They have a 2017 one that I recommend seeing. They also have an interactive one that you can go ahead and check out. Whatever it is, go ahead and check it out on your own. I think it should be fairly interesting, something that I would love doing beyond just the 2021 released Cook PVI. So, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2024 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.